There's a kind of noise that doesn't come from the outside world. It lives inside you. It's the constant hum of thoughts, fears, and unfinished conversations replaying in your head. The world feeds it. Every scroll, every notification, every meaningless opinion disguised as truth. And slowly, without noticing, you stop hearing your own voice. That's how most people live, deaf to themselves, addicted to noise. They wake up and reach for their phones before they reach for their minds. They fill the silence with podcasts, music, gossip, distractions, anything to avoid facing what waits in the quiet. Because silence is confrontation. It forces you to see what you've been running from. Marcus Aurelius warned about this centuries ago. He said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." But what happens when you can't even hear your thoughts clearly? When your mind is filled with static, opinions, expectations, judgments, lies? That's when you become weak. Not because you don't have strength, but because it's scattered. Noise scatters your focus, breaks your discipline, and hides your direction. You start reacting to everything, to people's moods, to their words, to their praise, to their rejection. You start living like a puppet, pulled by the strings of sound. The Stoics understood this trap long before technology amplified it. They called it the disturbance of the mind, when you let external chaos rewrite your internal order. Epictetus said, "When we are disturbed, it is not things themselves that trouble us, but our judgments about them." Meaning, the noise isn't the problem, your reaction is. And that's why silence is the first battlefield, not the silence of a quiet room, but the silence inside your own thoughts, the ability to observe without reacting, to listen to the storm without becoming part of it. Think of the world like a crowded marketplace, voices shouting, deals being made, chaos everywhere. Now picture a single man walking through it slowly, his eyes steady, his breath calm. He doesn't need to shout. He doesn't need to rush, because he knows where he's going. That man is the Stoic mind, still while everything else burns. We live in a culture that worships noise. People equate loudness with strength. They think if you're not constantly talking, posting, explaining, you're irrelevant. But the truth is the opposite. The loudest are often the most insecure. The quiet ones, the ones who listen, observe, and choose their words carefully, those are the dangerous ones. Because silence sharpens thought like a blade. It turns confusion into clarity, emotion into understanding, reaction into strategy. When you master silence, you master perception. You start seeing patterns others miss. You start understanding motives, yours and theirs. And suddenly you don't get pulled by every wave of emotion. You surf it. You don't drown in information, you filter it. You don't chase validation, you create it. The Stoic doesn't avoid the world's noise, he transcends it. He uses it as a reminder. If I can stay calm in this chaos, I can stay calm anywhere. That's why the world will never truly understand stillness. Because stillness looks boring to those addicted to stimulation. It looks weak to those ruled by impulse. But to the disciplined, it's freedom. When you choose silence, you're not disconnecting from life. You're reconnecting to yourself. You start hearing the whispers of your own intuition, the calm voice beneath all the noise saying, "This is who you are. This is what matters. This is what you must do." So, the next time the world tries to pull you into its chaos, don't fight it with more noise. Don't argue. Don't shout. Don't explain. Just become silent. Let the world roar and stand still in its center. Because that silence, that's not emptiness. That's your power gathering, waiting, ready to strike when the moment comes. Stillness. It sounds simple, but to a restless mind, it's torture. Most people mistake stillness for doing nothing. But for the Stoics, stillness wasn't about inaction. It was about control. It was a test. Can you stay calm when your emotions demand chaos? Can you stay composed when the world provokes you to react? That's the battlefield Marcus Aurelius fought every morning. He ruled an empire, commanded legions, faced betrayal and war. Yet his greatest struggle wasn't with enemies or politics. It was with his own thoughts, because he knew, if you don't command your mind, you command nothing. So he practiced stillness, like a warrior practices with his sword. Daily, deliberately. Before dawn, he would write in his journal, a ritual of discipline, not poetry. He would remind himself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This wasn't comfort. It was confrontation. It meant facing the chaos within and mastering it. Imagine the mind as a stormy sea, waves of anger, fear, desire, crashing endlessly. The Stoic doesn't curse the storm. He learns to breathe under it, to watch it, to let it pass. That's the essence of stillness, awareness without reaction. You don't suppress emotions, you understand them. You don't deny pain, you observe it. You don't run from fear, you look it in the eye and ask, what are you trying to teach me? This is not weakness, it's strength refined, because anyone can act out of impulse. But it takes a mind of steel to stand still and choose its response. Seneca once said, a wise man is content with himself. That doesn't mean isolation, it means mastery. It means being enough for yourself no matter the noise outside. The Stoic doesn't depend on peace, he creates it. He doesn't wait for calm, he becomes it. When you train your mind in stillness, you stop being dragged by the current of emotion. You start directing it. Like a captain steering through a storm, you move not with panic, but with precision. That's why the Stoics meditated not to escape life, but to dominate it. Meditation wasn't spiritual fluff. It was mental training. It was sharpening the weapon of attention, forging the armor of composure. Every time you resist the urge to react, you win a small battle. Every time you pause before responding, you grow stronger. And over time, those small victories build something unshakable, inner sovereignty. The modern world will never understand this kind of power, because it rewards noise, reaction, and spectacle. But the Stoic walks a different path. He listens more than he speaks. He observes more than he moves. And when he does act, his action cuts through like a blade, precise and undeniable. Stillness is not silence, it's awareness. It's knowing exactly what deserves your energy and what doesn't. It's standing tall when others crumble under pressure. It's smiling when chaos tries to pull you in. That's why true stillness is feared. Because a calm man cannot be controlled. You can threaten him, insult him, tempt him, but nothing shakes him. He's already conquered the hardest battlefield, his own mind. So practice this discipline daily. Wake up early, breathe deeply, observe your thoughts like clouds passing through the sky. Don't chase them. Don't judge them. Just watch, and you'll start to see it. The space between emotion and action. That's where wisdom lives. That's where power begins. Because stillness isn't the absence of motion. It's the presence of mastery. And once you've mastered that, the world can't touch you. Power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it says nothing at all. The modern world has confused noise with strength. People believe that if you speak louder, you'll be heard. If you argue more, you'll be respected. If you respond faster, you'll win. But the truth, the one the Stoics understood, is the opposite. The more you speak, the more you reveal. The more you react, the more control you surrender. And the more noise you create, the more truth you bury. Silence is the ultimate form of self-control. It is not the silence of weakness, it is the silence of preparation. It's the space between what happens and how you respond. That space is where mastery lives. Marcus Aurelius didn't need to shout to command an empire. His silence held authority because it was backed by thought, by reflection, by discipline. He understood that words are cheap, but silence? Silence is expensive. It costs restraint, patience, and clarity. When you learn to stay silent in moments of chaos, you learn to own those moments. When everyone else reacts emotionally, you remain calm, analytical. You study the battlefield while they waste their energy swinging blindly. That's how the Stoics fought their wars, not always with swords, but with silence. When others raged, they observed. When others boasted, they reflected. When others lost control, they tightened theirs, because silence isn't retreat, it's strategy. Every time you choose not to respond, you're training the mind to remain sovereign. You're saying, I am not a puppet to emotion. I decide when to act. Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." To listen is to see the truth beneath the noise. To remain quiet is to collect information, to read people, to understand intentions. Every word you don't speak becomes a secret weapon, a stored advantage. In silence, you start noticing things. The tone in someone's voice, the cracks in their confidence, the motives behind their kindness. You see patterns, you see truth, and truth, in the hands of a calm mind, is pure power. That's why the wise rarely explain themselves. They don't chase validation. They don't defend their worth to the insecure. They don't need to. Their composure is their argument. Their calm presence makes noise irrelevant. But don't mistake silence for apathy. True silence is alive, full of awareness, intention, and direction. It's the moment before the arrow leaves the bow, the breath before the strike, the pause before the decision that changes everything. That pause, that quiet, is sacred, because it's where emotion turns into intelligence, where impulse transforms into insight, where chaos bows before control. And once you've tasted that level of power, noise becomes distasteful. You begin to move differently, speak differently. You stop chasing attention because you've learned something deeper, that silence draws more gravity than words ever could. Think of the great leaders, philosophers, warriors. They all carried an aura of calm. Not because they lacked emotion, but because they mastered it. Their silence was not emptiness. It was intensity under control. It was focused power, restrained until the perfect moment. That's what you must build, a silence so strong it intimidates chaos, a calm so deep it unsettles the loud, a presence that speaks louder than words. Because when you stop reacting, you start directing. When you stop speaking, you start hearing truth. And when you stop trying to be powerful, you become it. So guard your silence like a weapon. Use it with precision. Let your calm become your message. Let your restraint become your dominance. In the end, silence doesn't just protect your peace. It amplifies your power. And when the world finally realizes that, it'll already be too late to match yours. The storm always comes. It tests every man. Most are swept away, shouting, blaming, begging for control they never trained for. But a few remain. They stand still while the world trembles. They are the silent ones, the Stoic warriors. A Stoic warrior doesn't fight to be seen. He fights to be effective. His power isn't loud, it's deliberate. Each action is chosen, each word measured. When he moves, the world feels it. You can sense it in his presence. The room grows quieter, not because he demands respect, but because his calm commands it. He doesn't argue with fools. He lets time expose them. He doesn't chase attention. He lets results speak for him. He doesn't promise. He delivers. That's what silence does. It builds gravity. It makes every motion heavier, every glance sharper, every decision final. Seneca wrote, "He who is brave is free." The Stoic warrior's bravery comes from discipline. He has met fear in the mirror and refused to bow. He has faced failure and extracted its lesson without complaint. That's why he doesn't need to shout about strength. He embodies it. In battle, noise comes from panic. Calm comes from mastery. The warrior chooses calm. He breathes through the chaos, listens for truth beneath the thunder, and strikes once, clean, decisive, unstoppable. His silence isn't absence. It's focus compressed into a single heartbeat. It's awareness so sharp that the unnecessary disappears. He sees only what matters. And when the moment demands action, he acts with the certainty of one who has already conquered himself. Modern warriors fight different wars: deadlines, temptation, distraction, doubt. But the principle remains: control yourself, and nothing external can defeat you. The Stoic warrior trains daily, not with weapons but with thoughts. He journals his flaws, disciplines his reactions, and protects his attention as if it were his last fortress. He knows anger is the easiest trap, and silence is its antidote. He knows envy poisons focus, and gratitude purifies it. He knows ego seeks noise, and wisdom thrives in quiet. So when provoked, he smiles. When insulted, he observes. When tested, he endures. Because he understands, to respond is optional, but to remain centered is power. And yet, silence doesn't mean isolation. The warrior still speaks, but only when his words can move mountains. His speech is slow, calm, heavy with purpose. Each sentence carries the weight of thought and the polish of restraint. He has learned that a whisper backed by conviction travels farther than a scream born of emotion. That is the paradox of Stoic power. By saying less, you become heard more. By seeking stillness, you move the world. By mastering silence, you master destiny. Picture him now, a figure carved in stone, scars on his face, serenity in his eyes. Around him, chaos screams for attention. He doesn't flinch. He watches. He waits. And when he finally speaks, the noise dies to listen. Because the warrior who speaks in silence doesn't command through fear or volume. He commands through presence. His stillness says what words cannot: I am unshaken. I am in control. I am free. That is the final lesson of Stoicism. To become so disciplined in thought, so anchored in self-control, that even silence bends to your will. The world may never understand that kind of power, but it will feel it. Every time you walk into a room with calm eyes and a quiet mind, you are already winning a war no one else can see. Because true warriors don't scream victory. They breathe it, in stillness, in silence, in absolute control.